So, I have plane anxiety, and it's getting worse literally every time I get on a plane. To a point where I start crying, hyperventilating, think I'm gonna die, want to jump out the window. It's really, really bad.
You can do what my mom does.
What?
Pop a pill.
Well, so I asked the doctor, and he prescribed me this for planes, but I'm really scared. I've never taken anything like this.
Can we all have one?
No. Yes, off camera. But I'm really scared. It's Xanax, which is like a thing, right?
Pop the pill.
What's it supposed to do to you?
I don't know.
Benzodiazepines are a class of medications typically used to treat anxiety and insomnia. They include things like Xanax, Valium, Klonopin. And one of the fascinating things about benzodiazepines in the past, let's say 20 years, is that there's been a steady increase in prescribing. In fact, since about 1999, benzodiazepine prescriptions have increased about 67%. There's also been a 7-fold increase in benzodiazepine-related mortality since 1999. And so what I've written about is that I really think that benzodiazepines are like the hidden epidemic. There's been all this national attention and awareness around opioids and how they can cause death and all kinds of other adverse health outcomes, including addiction. But we read very little about benzodiazepines and the fact that they are highly addictive, that they can cause death, that they cause all kinds of other adverse health outcomes.
Now, the first drug that was tested in this new era was Xanax, alprazolam, for panic disorder, okay? And here was the study they conducted. They had it was for panic attacks. It was Xanax versus a placebo group. And after 4 weeks, Xanax was doing better, okay? But it wasn't a 4-week study.
The way that physicians typically prescribe benzodiazepines to patients is contrary to how they are recommended to be prescribed by the FDA. Almost all benzodiazepines are recommended to be used only short-term. Now, how we define short-term is sort of in the eyes of the beholder, but generally when we're thinking short-term, we're thinking, on the order of days to weeks, not months to years.
At 8 weeks, the alprazolam patients were doing no better than placebo patients, okay? And then from 8 weeks to 14 weeks was when you withdrew the drug, because we knew benzodiazepines were addictive, so they had to have a withdrawal phase. At the end of 14 weeks, the Xanax patients were doing worse than they were at the beginning, and much, much worse than the placebo patients, okay? The trial told of harm done. It told of people who were going to get addicted. When they came off, they'd have all sorts of withdrawal symptoms, and some people unable to get off.
And yet we commonly see in the medical profession physicians who prescribe benzodiazepines to patients as a sort of one-way ticket. They start the prescription, the patient starts taking it, the patient endorses that they feel better, and 20 years later, they're still on that benzodiazepine, and often at a higher dose.
What did they report? What did American Psychiatry report? They didn't report the 8-week results. They focused on the 4-week results because that was a story that told of an effective new treatment for panic disorder. They basically glided over, didn't talk about the 8-week results in the abstracts and completely hid the 14-week results. So what's the evidence base? These are effective for panic disorder.
But there is a body of literature now that shows that these drugs do leave lasting, for many, many people, leave lasting cognitive deficits. No, I'm thinking of a study where people would, the study I was going to talk about, where the people were using multiple drugs over the years, benzos, and some people were using opiates, and some people were using stimulants. And the loss of brain function was the greatest in the people using the benzos, especially compared to people using the opiates.
For someone who's not taken benzos, I would go to great lengths to convince them never to do it. It's not a good idea. It can affect performance in school, on the job. It's devastating in terms of driving. People can be as impaired with benzos driving as they would be with alcohol. So all of the side effects that you associate with alcohol in young people can also occur with benzos. And the combination of the two is additive.
I'm really scared. It's Xanax, which is like a thing, right? That's like little Xan, like a big Xan.
People don't.
Wait, I've never done drugs.
It's doctor prescribed.
It's prescribed. You're okay. Pop the pill.
What's it supposed to do to you?
I don't know.
I mean, really, people like to disrespect my crew, but the fact is that you know my name and I don't know you.